This video is a love story. Since I've gotten the Ultimate, it's brought back a lot of memories from the past. And I just spent the last 2 hours in my basement looking for some discs. And I have a lot of discs, both for the Amiga and C64. But I wanted to find these discs in particular. So it says the archives on the first disc. And then the second disc says Archives 10.0, System Disk version 2, August 7th, 1986. So the Archives was the name of my BBS that I ran in the mid-80s on a Commodore 64. I had two 1541 drives and two of the 1 meg SFD drives. And it was fairly popular. It was based just outside of Chicago in the suburbs, in the village of Crestwood, running from the third floor of a tiny apartment on Kilpatrick Avenue in Crestwood, Illinois. That was the time that I was really fascinated by the C64, and I just wanted to get every piece of software out there. And the easiest way was to start a BBS. I only had one phone line for a while, so the BBS only ran like overnight, and during the day when we needed to use the phone, of course we couldn't run the BBS, and people of course wouldn't pay attention to the hours that were posted. So you'd get a phone call, you'd answer it, and you'd hear that tone, that screech of another modem trying to connect. In fact, this is the modem, the exact modem that was used to run that BBS. It's a Commodore 1670 1200 baud modem. I actually started out with a 300 baud modem when the BBS first started, because that's all I could afford. I mean, I was just a poor college kid back then. But eventually I went up to 1200 baud, and I remember it was just an incredible feeling seeing text going so fast compared to 300 baud. So as I was saying, with the Ultimate, it stirred up a lot of feelings and memories. So I thought, wouldn't it be great to recreate the BBS, to bring it back? And I know this is going to be a challenge because about 10 years ago, I got a Zoom floppy. In case you guys aren't aware, a Zoom floppy is a device that creates an IEC connection for a Commodore drive that you can hook up to a PC, a Windows PC, and it'll let you read C64 disks, create D and G64 files from them. And the reason I'm saying that it's going to be a challenge is because I tried to archive these disks. I tried to run these disks, and there's read errors on them. So I wasn't able to get a good copy. And of course, with Zoom floppy, you're limited to the PC side and the limitations of that copier and nibbler. But now that I have the Ultimate, and you can see I have a different drive here. I've got my 1571 hooked up instead of my 1541 because it's the newest of my drives. It's probably the most reliable. So I want to see if I can get a good copy of these discs, because I can use, for example, a nibbler from Maverick instead of the Zoom floppy that I used 10 years ago to try to retry those bad sectors until it can read correctly. So I've never used Maverick. I was a fast hacking guy back in the day, so it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, I think, when you see me struggle. But I just want to share my journey with you guys, and if anyone else is trying to go through the same thing, maybe this will help you out. Like I said, I've never used Maverick. I was only fast hack them. So here's Maverick. So before I do that, I did create a configuration that was, well, I don't want to go back, that would create an internal drive 9 virtual and an external 8. So I'm going to copy 8 to 9. But before I do that, I need to practice safe computing. So I have some electrical tape that I am going to cover the write notch on these disks. And unfortunately, I didn't listen to my own advice back in the day. As you can see, I did notch the backside to also store data, which of course is a no-no because these disks were only checked on one side for the quality testing. The backside might have been bad. A lot of times they weren't, but when you're a kid without money, you get double the disks from a hole puncher. So we're going to make sure that everything is safe on these master disks first before we start messing around with Maverick. So it is interesting because the Ultimate now lets me create as many disks virtually without, buying physical disks and trying them out. We're going to have it instantly. That's another thing I haven't done is work with virtual disks on the Ultimate. So this is also going to be a learning experience for me. I kind of went through the menus and I kind of know just from the descriptions what to do, but we'll see. So we'll start with the archives first disk. First thing I'm going to do is go to the, drive B, which is 9, which is going to be my destination drive. I'm going to put it in a blank disk. So I'm assuming this is a Maverick that I should have mounted it first. Oh, you know what? It's going to look for, okay. It's not loading Maverick. It's loading the first program on the BBS, and it's going to probably give some errors. Or maybe not. I don't know. If it doesn't, I'll know this 1571 is the right drive to use. When I had my Zoom floppy backups, I didn't have this 1571. I was using a couple of old 1541s. Actually, at the time, I think I only had one 1541. So, even if the BBS loads, I don't know if it'll actually run correctly because obviously I don't have two SFDs hooked up to my Ultimate. I do have the disks that came with the SFDs, though. Would be really nice. Besides the drive emulation limited to 1541, 1571, and 1581, if there was an SFD option. So when it ran, it just stopped. So it looks like the program is here. I didn't hear the disk knock. So that's a good sign because on the 1541, as it was loading, it was knocking the heads. Okay, I have a good feeling about this, guys. So let's go back to Maverick, and we're going to mount the disk on B. Oh, we can't mount the disk on B because, well, we can. because that was also the destination. Okay, I see. Well, I shouldn't have mounted the blank disk. We're going to mount the blank disk when we're ready to copy. That's where I went wrong. So the disk is mounted on drive 9. Yep, okay. So I'm going to load first program on 9. Okay. So we want the GCR nibble copier. We're going to use a dual setup. Okay. So our source is going to be 8, destination 9. I don't know what softwire drives are. I don't know what auto density is either. So I'm just going to leave those options as is. Well, let me restart the machine. Okay. Mount on B. Okay, we're going to the nibbler, dual. We're going to switch the source and destination. So we've got 8 to 9. We're going to go to copy disk, insert diskettes. So I'm going to hit, I'm going to enter the menu. I'm going to go to drive B, which is my drive 9. I am going to remove this disk, and then I'm going to go back in to drive B, and then I'm going to insert a blank, and then I'm going to go back to Maverick, and I'm going to hit return. Okay, our 1571 is humming along. So, you know, if I do get this going, I really want to put the BBS back up. I don't know if it would be easier to just do it on a VM, a virtual machine that's running 24/7, but I really, really would love, I'll probably do this if it's possible, get another Ultimate and just use it to run the BBS. Because I don't want to use my Ultimate. Back in the day, I only had one C64, so I never got a chance to play programs except for, you know, when the BBS was off hours. Copy completed, press return. Okay, so now, how do I save this? Drive B. Okay, so we can save it as binary or save as a GCR. I'm assuming binary is a D64 and a GCR is a G64. So I'm going to save it as both. Archive side 1. I don't know if it'll give it the extension. It's taking a while. Maybe it crashed. No, okay. Oh, it saved it to the Maverick disk. So I was in USB 0. So I want to back all the way out. I'm going to go to my other thing, my other USB drive, and I want to save it here. So I'm going to go back here, drive B, save as binary, archives 1. Archives 1 D64. Now I'm going to go to the same menu, and I'm going to save as GCR in case that was errors. So yeah, okay, so you don't need to put in the extension, and it creates the D or G version depending on what you pick. So that was side 1. I'm going to go back to Maverick. So we got the flippy. And we're going to copy. Insert diskettes. Oh, so I need to put in a new disk in drive 9. So we're going to go to drive 9. We're going to remove that disk. And then we are going to go back in the drive 9 and insert a blank. And then we're going to go back to Maverick, hit return. So pretty straightforward. Yeah, I remember, I don't know if it was Fast Hack'em or a different program. So we used to have copy parties, and you would like bring a C64 and 2 drives, you'd hook it up, you'd run this program, and then, these drives have their own CPU, there's 6502 in there, so, and RAM, etc. So this program would, besides setting one as like the host or source and the other is destination, once you set it, you could unhook the computer and you would just keep on putting blanks in your destination drive. As soon as you shut the door, it would start copying. So if you guys remember that, yeah, that was like amazing for back then. Copy completed. So I didn't hear any disk knocking, so that's a good sign. Press return. We're going to go back to our menu, and then I'm going to save that disk. This archives 2. And then we'll make the G64 version as well. Okay. I'm going to go back to Maverick. Pop out the sucker. Now we have the archives 10.0 system disk. Now I'm wondering if Vice lets you set up drives as SFDs, those 1 meg drives. Although, the problem is, how do I get images? I don't have the real SFDs anymore. So what happened was 1985, the Amiga. It was out in the magazines. I knew I had to have an Amiga. It was just mind-blowing. It was magical. It just blew my mind that, you'd have a personal computer that could display all those colors, could play sampled music, it was just something that I had to have, right? It was like the #1 goal in my life. So I had to give up the BBS. So I sold the SFDs for cash. I sold one of the 1541s. I became just a user. I had all the software out there, so I was able to upload, get a lot of credits. But I still have those 2 SFDs that were on the BBS when I sold those drives, but now I have no way to image them. So I'll have to think about that. I might have to just rebuild the BBS without the SFDs. Okay, so I've got the second disk in there. I forgot what I called it. Archive system disk. So I need to put in my blank. Start the copy. I don't know if you guys have any info as to how I can image 2 1 megabyte SFD diskettes. Let me see if I have them handy. I think I do. Yeah. Two diskettes here. Archives SFD 1001 version 2, and then that's the drive that they were assigned to, U8+1 and U8+2. And apparently, I don't know if I pulled these on. No, this is probably when I first used these disks in those drives. June 28th, 1986. So they're notched too, but I think the SFD was a double. It had 2 heads for the front and the back. Copy completed. Okay, let us go to save them. Archive system is what I called it. Side 1. Okay. Side 2. The worrying part is that, Maverick was meant for copy protected disks, so errors, it would just happily copy along. So I'm wondering if it's just copying the original disk errors without tossing a message. Okay, so going back here, save as binary 2, and then we're going to save as binary again, or as GCR. Okay. So now, let's see how these copies worked. I'm going to go back and go up to configurations, and I'm going to use my default configuration, which is everything virtual. So 8 and 9 are now virtual. need to turn off the 1571. Because that'll confuse the computer with 2 drive 8s. Okay. Now we are going to go back here. We're going to look at the first disk. We're going to mount it. Oh, you know what? I'm going to mount it as read-only. I should use Jiffy DOS. It doesn't matter. So, no. I want to say that the original disk threw some errors just reading the directory. Yeah, that's a lot. That's because I think all the configuration files, yeah, there's a lot of like all the user files and stuff. Like how it's upper and lowercase. Okay, let's load the first file. Why do I want to hit 9? I'm not going to do -1. Pretty sure it's basic. Yeah. Okay. So I didn't hear any like head knock. So there's no modem hooked up, obviously. I do have a user port ordered. Don't know when it'll get here. No SFDs, so I don't know if that'll make a difference. Yeah, undefined statement. This is a CNET BBS, and I heavily modified it. Yeah, there's the undefined statement. I wonder if it didn't read correctly. Oops. So let's see where it ends. $585. So I'm wondering if one of these other program files is what I'm supposed to load. I don't know. Let's take a look at the other side. Let's reboot the machine first. CNET backup, okay. In my where list, I wonder if this is a backup of the BBS. I don't know. All these years that have gone by, I've forgotten. And speaking of which, I think I hard-coded my password, and we'll have to see if I even remember it. 10.0 exclamation point. Oh my God. Look at that. Although I wonder if this is like the base CNET, like without any of my modifications. Come on, this will be incredible. If this is the BBS on this side, or a backup of it, and it's working. No Jiffy dust. So we got to sit through these loads. And I understand this doesn't quite work right on the Ultimate. Otherwise, I could use it as well. But for right now, it's just a prop. Anticipation is killing me. Come on. I remember transferring files, you'd use like X modem and eventually Y modem. I want to say, oh, there's a date. You know what? I bet you this is just the backup. It's not January 7th, but you can't even change the century. So, okay, McFly, we're going back to the future. Let's try March. Let's try the 29th. No, I did not want to do that. March 29th. I want to go to 2026. Oh, 1969. Yeah, you'll do that, right? 1999. But you won't go to 2000. Y2K non-compliant. Okay, well, we'll go to 1986. And we'll make it 11 p.m. because that's when the board was running. Insert all system disks and proper drives and hit any key to begin. Well, I don't have any system disks, right? Oh wait, I do have a system disk. I had 2 system disks. So I'm going to go back here. Okay, so I'm going to mount the disk on A. And then I'm going to mount this one on B. There's a haste command, ATV0. Remember AT++? So it's not going to progress because there's no modem hooked up, because there's no user port hooked up. But it does give me hope, guys. It does give me hope. The only thing is, I think this might be the standard CNET and not my custom version. There was a way to log on as a SYSOP. I'm going to have to do more investigation on that. But now that I looked at the order that it was written on there, I wonder if I didn't load my copy, but I load a copy, a backup copy of the original software. So let us reboot and go here, because that was this disk that just said the archives. We'll just run it. I don't think it's a (8), (1) though. We'll see. All right, so yeah, see, this is the program that I originally loaded. It just stops. I'm going to, I wish the C64 could just scroll back. But do this and then list it. I know I had some pretty weird graphics on the title screen, splash screen, login screen, whatever you want to call it. See, it's okay. I'm pretty hopeful I'll be able to do something with this. See what was on that other disk. This one. So some utilities. File called BBS though. Well, even if I can't get the BBS going, right, I can find like a vanilla version of CNET out there and then maybe copy the BBS files over, the user and sequential files, and kind of have like the BBS, but not the way it was totally. Once again, more research needed. I wish I had the memory of that I did 40 years ago and remembered how everything was set up, all the customizations I made. I wish I had the SFDs. The SFDs didn't hook up to the user port directly. You had to have an adapter. I remember having to have like an IEEE number adapter to hook them up. So, I mean, if you think that 1581 disk drives are rare, I'll bet SFDs are even rarer. Some machine language here, so it's not the BBS. Yeah, I don't know what that is. 6485. All right, so this is different BBS. I don't remember 6485 BBS. Load the user log, yes. Yes. Maybe this is a BBS that I was planning on using. I definitely use CNET. Oh, okay. So let's say it is 2311, like it was before. Today is Sunday, and we'll say it is March, because it actually is March right now. It's actually that. Oh. Oh. That's me. That's my handle, the Paladin. And that's my BBS, the archives. And those are the hours, almost 24 hours. I am available to chat. I have 2 disk drives. I have a 1650. Okay. Okay. You know what this is? This is the BBS before the BBS. Before I had the SFDs. Before I had this, I had a crappy 300 baud BBS up. I think this is it. Let's see what happens. Let's see what the SYSOP menu does. Directory. You ever use a BBS, you're doing your thing, you're trying to leech your files, and then all of a sudden the SysOp jumps in to chat with you, and you're like, shit. I was hoping to just leech some files and get out of here, but I've been busted. Read system log. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh. Mad Max. Mad Max was a kid from Tinley Park, Illinois, and I'm not going to empty that log. I wish the dates were there. We used to go to copy parties and stuff. Psycho Killer uploaded Where My Bone? Where My Bone? 58 minutes. Yeah, 300 baud. That's about right. Somebody uploaded Action Time. How many blocks free are in this disk? 79. New user mail. Uploads from validated users 8 off. I'm not sure what that means. Yeah, I see. Okay. So to drive 8, access the files of drive 8, you have to be a validated user. Go to drive 9, which is where all the good shit was, you'd have to be level 7. Okay. Let's go to the BBS. Waiting for a call. Okay. I need that user port, Commodore International. I need that user port to be shipped ASAP, because what I'm going to do, and you guys will be a part of this too, so this is going to be continued, right? User port, modem in the user port, and you're thinking, but there's no phone lines anymore. Everyone uses cell phones. I don't have a landline either, guys. How are you going to set up a BBS with that? And here's the answer. A really long telephone cord. And this. This is my own phone company, guys. So this is a Viking POTS, plain old telephone system. I don't know. You can hook up a phone to this, and you'll get a dial tone, and it'll ring the other phone at the other end. It'll work with a modem. So I'm going to set up my 64C next to the Ultimate, maybe in another room. I'm going to run a long line between the two modems. I'm going to have a terminal program on that one, BBS on this one, and then you can see the BBS in action, because I'm going to call my own BBS from another room, and you're going to see what a user saw back in August 1986. So strap in. That's going to happen. So I'm going to do some more research as to why I can't get my actual other BBS, the CNET one, up, because that was the later one. It's got all the good stuff on it. I'm going to do some research to see if I can get the stuff off of those SFDs. And if I can, those SFDs, I mean, they stored a megabyte. So they won't even fit on the 1581. I'll have to figure out how to do that. Might have to have some witchcraft with Vice. But anyway, I'm going to work it out. We'll get back to this in the next part whenever that happens. So thanks for coming along on my journey back to the past, and hope we have more parts to this. As always, guys, take some time this week to reboot and remember the past.